Hello, Tiger fans. Thanks for joining us this week on the Perry Thomas Show. Matt Payton here with you on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. We visit with the head coach of Fighting Tiger football, Perry Thomas. Lindsey Wilson College comes to town this past weekend, coach. A top 10 team, rivalry game, big game here at Finley Stadium. Not the result the Tigers were looking for, but again, you can see the progress for some of those young guys that you guys have playing this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're a tremendous football team, and they do a great job of coaching those guys, and they were hungry to win. And, after we went over to their place and beat them last year, you could tell. I thought our guys competed with them well for a long time, and then we had that third quarter lull that we can have sometimes, and then after that lull, we got back in it and we're competing again. But you just can't have a drop off during the game against the teams like Lindsey and Reinhardt or anyone in this league for that matter, including against us. So I thought that Lindsey was a good team, though, deserving of a top 10, and they'll probably, if they continue to win, they'll get to host a playoff game possibly.
Well, we're going to talk about this a little later. You mentioned that kind of that lull or that little dry spell that you guys go through. Have you been able to put a finger on that? Have you been able to determine what it is, what causes that? Is it a mental lapse, just a breakdown physically? What maybe causes that?
Well, I mean, I think sometimes it's dealing with the adversity. We do a great deal in the off season and putting our guys into adverse situations, and some of these guys haven't been through all season, or they've just been through one season of it. So dealing with the adversity that comes sometimes in a game, some of our guys aren't ready for that yet. And then sometimes I think it's just a mental break that sometimes you could take, and it's just something we're going to have to really work on in off season, like we do every year. I mean, it's really nothing different than what we always work on. We just got to get more of the guys on the team that are playing through it, because we are putting so many young guys out there on the field.
And we'll take a look at that box score for those of you following along on WLCU TV. Campbellsville comes up short this week. Final score 54-33. Lindsey Wilson victorious. Hunter Brown, another big day for the quarterback, 38 of 62. Those 38 completions, a new school record in a single game, 359 yards. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception for Hunter. Tyus Alcorn and Kendon Young, big days for the Tigers. Tyus with 9 catches, 119 yards, another touchdown added to his all-time record touchdown catches here at Campbellsville. Kendon Young, I think his most productive day as a receiver for the Tigers, 8 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. And then, Coach, down at the bottom, we'll look at that penalties column. Second time this year that your Tigers have been flagged, and what you kind of have to say an excessive amount in a ball game. You get 26 penalties in a game, 18 of those on the Tigers. It's hard to overcome against any opponent, especially a good football team like
Yeah,
Lindsey Wilson.
and that's disappointing. When you go in those big games, you're going to have some physical penalties and some things, and just like they had. But we had 18, and that's just too much. There were some things that obviously you question as a coach on the penalties on some of them. But then there were some little things that we did. We had a couple of formation penalties on offense. Those are things that you can never have. We had a couple of offsides penalties on the defensive line. Those are things you can't have. The hands to the face, those deals, the interference, sometimes you're going to get those from time to time just because of the nature of football. But you can't have those non-forced penalties like offsides or formation issues.
And we mentioned that final score. And, Coach, you guys got the fast start. As we take a look at some of the highlights here of this football game, you guys see Lindsey Wilson get the opening kickoff, and one of their better return men, Cooks, an early fumble. You guys go right in and score quickly, and got the fast start you were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to do, is get a few big breaks. We haven't had a lot of breaks this year, and we was able to get one on the opening kickoff and give us the ball in the red zone. And it seems like we turn it over a lot in the red zone, but for us to get them, to get the ball in the red zone is great for our offense.
Wade Holtzclaw gets stopped. It looked like he may have broke the play, and the
Right.
call goes against the Tigers. However, you come back. I think that was a 4th down call there, Coach. Hunter
Yes.
Brown sneaks it in, another rushing touchdown for Hunter. A quick answer by Lindsey Sublett on the 1-yard run there for Lindsey Wilson. The Tigers, you have to settle for some field goals here coming up. Bradley Bates, Lindsey Wilson's first lead of the day, comes here. Dylan Beasley, just a little quarterback keeper. He actually earned Mid-South Conference Player of the Week honors, I believe, did Beasley. And then the Tigers, you come back, Coach, and get a couple Bradley Bates field goals, who's been very good for you this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's disappointing too, though, because you don't want all those field goals. It's great that we can kick them, but when you get inside that scoring zone, you got to score touchdowns against these good teams, and having to come away with a couple of field goals. I think we had 2 and had 1 blocked. You know, it's huge because that's 21 points. I think we lose the game. Well, you know, that's 17 of them right there.
And then we had, as we get to the halftime look there, Coach, I think highlights a little quick on me here.
Yeah.
Halftime, I thought was one of the biggest, you know, right there, that last play was probably what could have been one of the biggest plays of the game in terms of momentum. You get that big stop. They were going for maybe to step on the throat kind of thing, and you guys were able to come up with that big stop defensively, get the football coming out, and things kind of going your way.
Right, and that was huge for us. You know, that was huge for our defense and their confidence also to get that big stop on the goal line. Unfortunately, when we come back out in the second half, we had to punt. You know, we couldn't score, and then we tossed a couple of picks and so forth, or a pick, and get them back in scoring territory again. Got a late hit on it, and you know, some silly things. So they get on the one, and you know, able to punch it in right there. And things are. This is that lull time right there. You know, we're in that lull now where things are kind of not going our way, and we're not handling it well. Then we come back and we muff the kickoff, and you know, they get the ball back again at the 25 in the red zone. So, you know, a big part is that lull, and then another big part is when we do have those 21 potential points that we had to try to get 17 on, you know, with the kicking game and so forth. We can't blow those.
And then here you can see the Tigers continue to fight back into the ball game. Hunter Brown here, a touchdown to Kendon Young. You mentioned that interception earlier, Coach. That was a chance. It was still a 2-score game. You guys had the opportunity to go and maybe put a scoring drive together, keep it as a 1-score game. Interception, short field, they score, 3-score game, and that's kind of when it maybe got out of hand just a little bit. Here the Tigers close out the scoring. It's Chance Goodman, and Coach, we've seen that youngster out of Alabama put together some really good runs in his days. This may be his best as a Tiger. He hit the line of scrimmage like a ball of fire.
Yeah.
No catching number 31 there.
Yeah, he did a good job. No line did a great job of opening up the lanes for him. And there's been some positives this year as we look, you know, as we begin to start looking over the season. It's been a long year on the scoreboard as far as the wins, the victories go. But there's been some positives. I think our offensive line has been a big positive for us. You know, we think about Jake Russell over the last couple of years running for his life behind the offensive line, and now, you know, Hunter Brown has time and he's able to make those connections, and we're also able to open holes like Chance just ran through. So I think that's one of the positives we've had this year.
And the Tigers will get back at it this coming week, and it doesn't get much easier as the Tigers travel to Waleska, Georgia to take on top 5 opponent Reinhardt University, number 3 in the latest poll, were the Eagles, and a team that Campbellsville has been able to knock off the last 2 years. We'll step away, come back, get Coach Perry Thomas's thoughts on that matchup with Reinhardt here on the Perry Thomas Show.
A champion doesn't get days off. It takes determination and drive to realize goals. From long nights to early mornings. From the courts to the classrooms to online. At Campbellsville University, this is why we play. This is how we learn. This is where champions are made. Find your calling for a life change at campbellsville.edu.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Perry Thomas Show as we get set for Campbellsville's upcoming matchup on the road at Waleska, Georgia, Reinhardt University. It's a 1:30 kickoff for the Tigers on Saturday, the Tiger Tailgate Show at 1 p.m. And Coach, this Mid-South Conference, there's no rest for the weary. It doesn't get any easier. Top 10 Lindsey Wilson comes to Campbellsville. Now you go on the road to number 3 Reinhardt in what should be an absolute dogfight.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really a tough run for us because you know, having Lindsey and then Reinhardt, 2 of the top teams in the country, you have a tendency to go in that next game a little beat up. And just like Lindsey, when they played us last week, you know, they had played Reinhardt the week before, so you never knew how their injury level was going to be. So it's always, you know, a challenge, but it is what it is. And the last 3 years, this game has meant a lot. You know, 3 years ago, we played them here for an opportunity for one of us to be co-champions, and they beat us. Last 2 years, we've played them there and here for opportunities to be champions or co-champions, and we've been able to win those 2 games. So other than, these last 3 years, it's come down to championships in this game. And that's not the case this year, but we certainly have opportunity to spoil their season a little bit and to finish this season with some victories and some pride.
Absolutely. Reinhardt looking for that undefeated season still at this point as they sit with that top 3 ranking. You mentioned those games a few years ago. Reinhardt able to, pull off a victory here at Campbellsville. You go to Waleska 2 years ago, pick up your first of back-to-back Mid-South Conference West Division championships. Last year here at home, you were able to do that. Do you expect Reinhardt to play with a chip on their shoulder? Not only, this is a team coming to town a little banged up, not having the season you wanted, but still the team that has, ended their championship hopes 2 years in a row.
No doubt about it. I think that they will definitely be laying in wait for us. We've been their off-season program, motivation for the last few years, and that's not just something we make up as coaches. Some of our guys go to all-star situations and so forth with those guys, and they'll tell our guys that then. And so I think that they're ready to get a win against us. And one of the things, when you start beating a team, you start developing that culture within your program that you always beat that team. So I'm sure that they're wanting to get that monkey off their back, so to speak, and pound us. Not try to embarrass us, but pound us. So we have to be ready to go. No doubt about it. They're going to come out with full energy. I don't think they'll come out saying, "Hey, we're playing a 1-8 team" or whatever we are. I think they'll come out with full energy, ready to compete and win.
Reinhardt, one of those programs, coach, that's still really, really young in the grand scheme of things. But talk to me a little bit about that recruiting base and that recruiting area. They've got a lot of kids from Georgia, but just enough. They're close enough that they can pluck some from important other spots as well.
Yeah, they're in a hotbed, kind of like Faulkner, and Point, even in Georgia. First of all, Reinhardt's coaching staff does a tremendous job. They're very sound in what they do. They understand how to develop youngsters and how to draw those relationships. So they developed a tremendous program in all aspects. But they're also in an area where they can get good players, handily. And they're close enough to Alabama, Florida, those places where they can pull kids from other places, and they developed a strong program, and they're going to always be good. I don't. As long as they have that type of staff there, they're going to always be good. They're not going to have those drop-offs that some of us have from time to time. They have manageable numbers, and they do a good job with it.
LJ Stegall, a name that Tiger fans will remember. He's been a key part of the Reinhardt attack for the last several years. Finally, he's a senior, and this will be his last game against the Tigers. But walk me through a little bit of that Reinhardt offense, the Tiger defense.
Well, they're a tremendous team. They're going to run a lot of jet sweep, a lot of off-tackle stuff. And actually, when you watch them, they will remind you of our running game. Don't do as much single back, just go at your stuff, but they do some misdirection. Our jet sweep, they run a ton. What we call ram, the off-tackle play we give to a running back, they run that a ton. And they do have some little inside traps that they'll do with that. And then they're going to do some play-action pass, but also some regular drop-back stuff. A lot of pulling, a lot of speed, a lot of strength on that front, a lot of speed everywhere. Big physical line, a line not so much like the Bethel and Cumberland's line or the Lindsay line, close to that size, but faster, so they can get out on the perimeter and do some things. And like I said, much like we do. So they're a tremendous offense, score a lot of points. They throw the ball really well. Everyone gets caught up in their running, but they do throw the ball really well. They have a tremendous quarterback that's a dual threat. So defensively, we're going to have to be aggressive. We're going to have to know our responsibilities and our assignments and be aggressive and go attack them. We can't just play on our heels and try to guess where things are going. It's not an offense that fools you. People think of wing T and they think you get lost on reads. Well, if you know your job, you just go attack it, and it shouldn't be an issue for us as far as reading it. Now, can we make the play at the point of attack? We'll have to see.
And then on the other side of the football, Coach, as you get set to kind of see your offense that has been very good, they've been able to score this year. In fact, that game against Lindsay, I believe the lowest point total of the season, but still a productive day offensively. Walk me through what the Tigers have to do to kind of keep that pace going offensively.
Well, we got to match up their speed. They're going to put a lot of speed on the field. Their D-line, their linebackers, their secondary. They remind me of defenses we've had over the last few years where all the guys can run. And even this defense we have now, everybody over there can run. But they're going to be obviously more mature bodies, and they're strong and fast. They hang their hat on offense, but they're playing much better defense than they have the last few years. They can get after you well. I think they held Lindsay to 34 points or something like that, 35 points. But they hang their hat on offense. So we have to take advantage. We have to go down there and try to put points on the board, obviously. And then we have to be sound in the kicking game. And the kicking game for us has been sporadic. Some games we've been really strong this year, and then some games we've been sporadic. You look at Saturday's game, we had a couple of plays in there where it looks like a tremendous kicking game. Field goals, kickoff return fumble that we caused on them. And then we had a field goal blocked, and we had a muff kick. So we have to be consistent on the kicking game and not let them have big returns.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you this weekend down at Reinhardt. We'll let you get out of here.
Thank you.
Coach Thomas and the Tigers take the field this Saturday. It's a 1:30 kickoff. The Tiger Tailgate Show will begin at 1 p.m. on 88.7 The Tiger. We'll let Coach get out of here a little early this week. Jordan Alves will come in and talk to us about some Tiger and Lady Tiger soccer as they get set for their conference tournaments this weekend here on the Perry Thomas Show.
Excellence.
Nurturing.
Rooted.
Diversity.
Experience personal, academic, and spiritual growth at Campbellsville University.
Thanks for staying with us, Tiger fans. Welcome back to the Perry Thomas Show here on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. Matt Payton with you as we welcome in Sports Information Director Jordan Alves to talk about all things going around on CU Athletics. Jordan, it's a big weekend around campus. You've got the Fighting Tiger football game on the road, basketball starting up, but some of the most successful Tiger soccer programs we've ever seen, seasons we've seen in action in the postseason tournaments this week in Mid-South Conference.
Lady Tiger and Tiger Soccer, they're going down to Bowling Green this week for the conference tournaments. The Tigers, co-Mid-South Conference champions for the second straight year, and last year they won it outright. This year, co-champs with Lindsey Wilson. They had a 4-4 draw with them earlier in the year. Campbellsville actually goes in, the men go in as a 2 seed to the tournament though, due to some tiebreaker issues. They go in as a 2 seed. They'll end up playing Life University. We'll talk about that a little later. But the women are actually a little down this year. They've struggled a little bit, had some injuries late and had some other team issues that they're overcoming. They've been playing very well as of late, though. That's really the key, is playing very well. They go into the conference tournament as the 6th seed. The women do, but the soccer programs are really on the rise here the last few years.
Well, we'll start with the men's, and it's the first unbeaten season in Campbellsville University athletics history. Coach Preston's gang finishes the season with an unblemished loss column. They did have 2 ties, so you can't necessarily say perfect, perhaps, but that's a team that made their run last year and down in Miami in the Southern Florida area in the national tournament. Not the result they wanted from that, but here they are again knocking on the door of another great run.
It's funny you say that about the perfect record. Bobby Brockman got on me last weekend about that, the football game. I said perfect in my story. It's not perfect. It's unbeaten, undefeated, so to speak. They do have a 13-0-2 record. I hate ties in any sport. Heck, you see it in football now. You see it in the NFL with ties. It's just awful. You should always have a winner. PKs is the most exciting thing in soccer, I think. But yes, the only team in program history to go through the regular season unbeaten, that's a huge feat. You think about how long the athletics has been here. We have in the office every basketball book from 1950s. And we've had sports before that. I mean, the program, the history of the programs, it goes all the way back to probably the early 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Soccer programs not as far, maybe the 80s and 90s. But you think about that, the only team ever in CU history to go undefeated through the regular season is a pretty big feat.
And you think now you've reached the point where if they can continue that and they remain unbeaten,
I take it.
There's some pretty cool things coming along with that in terms of conference and national championships.
And I take a trip to Miami again this year. I wasn't able to go last year. I went with the women's program down to Orange Beach. Never been to Miami. Actually, maybe going to Miami Gardens for the women's basketball in late December. So kind of get the lay of the land down there. And with soccer, that'd be a sweet little trip. And the men's program's playing very well. The thing about the men's program this year is they don't have a star player. It's multiple players that are that have just carried the load. the last few years they've had Conference Players of the Year. But when you take away that player, they just weren't as effective and weren't as powerful. This year, it's so many more players that are coming together. The senior class, Alex Higdon, Ross Lindsay, and Diego Morales, they've been huge for Campbellsville this season. And you have some players of the week, Gonzalo Sopina, you have Ross Lindsay, who was a player of the week earlier in the year. But they don't have any of that usually. It's a team effort, and that's really the key this year. There's not just one good player. There's like 8 or 9 that are really, really solid.
You mentioned that player of the week by Gonzalo Sopina. The Lady Tigers, their goalie also going to be Mid-South Conference Defender, Defensive Player of the Week, and then also NCCAA Player of the Week as well. And you see Amanda Howard doing great things in goal for the Lady Tigers.
And I'm not sure on the number. I believe it's 9 for Gonzalo Sopina, or 9 for Amanda Howard in her career for Players of the Week in the conference. 10 for Gonzalo Sopina, the Paraguay native. Amanda Howard here from Danville, Kentucky, and went to Mercer County High School. But those two, they're studs in goal. Amanda was the first program, the program's first NAI first team All-American last year. Gonzalo was NAI honorable mention last year. He's actually number 2 in the country right now in goals against average. I believe it's at 0.42 or something like that. He's allowed 4 or 5 goals all year. 4 of those came to a top-ranked Lindsey Wilson team.
Oh, he has 11 shutouts, I think, on the season. So you can see he keeps that scorecard pretty clean for the Tigers in goal. Talking about the Lady Tigers, as we transition just a little bit, not the regular season they had hoped for. They've reached the point now where every game is critical. They want that return trip to the national tournament.
They go up against Cumberland University, the 2 seed. On a Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. They go up against Cumberland U out of Lebanon, Tennessee. It'll be a huge matchup. Campbellsville lost earlier in the year. I believe it was 4-0 is what they lost. Didn't have a shot on goal. They really went down there and struggled in Lebanon, and they're looking to overcome that. They're looking to try to move forward. They've really been playing well as of late. The last few games, they ended up the regular season with a tie to University of the Cumberlands. But yes, it's do or die for them. If they don't win the first round, they're not going to get an at-large bid like they did last year, the NAI tournament. They do have the NCCA championship they can go to down in Kissimmee, Florida. That's the secondary option right now. Obviously, their goals are at the NAI level, but they have qualified for the NCCA level, and that'll be a fun trip if they do go down there as well.
The quarterfinals this weekend. It's actually Thursday and Friday. The guys play. The girls play Thursday night, 6:30 Eastern for that matchup, and then the guys 3:30 on Friday afternoon against Life University. Fans can follow that on CampbellsvilleTigers.com.
Yeah, all the links will be on CampbellsvilleTigers.com. There's links on each soccer page. You go to the soccer pages, there'll be a link on the side that says MSC Tournament 2016. You'll be able to go to the tournament page there and see all the live stats, the videos, the stories, the box scores, everything like that. But it'll also be linked on CampbellsvilleTigers.com on the main page.
And if you do pull up the video, don't freak out when you see something crazy with the field, right?
Yeah, the field, it's reminds you of you football guys out there. Boise State, it's a blue turf. It's a bright blue turf. Brand new field at Warren East. Beautiful, beautiful facility. Brand new field just the last year or so. They don't even have internet out there in the press box yet. That's how new it is. So blue turf, bright yellow end zones for the football. So it'll be very interesting. First time I've ever seen blue turf before. I haven't been able to go to Boise yet, but it'll be very interesting in a new kind of culture there.
Well, best of luck to the Tigers and Lady Tigers this week as they get set to start their Mid-South Conference tournament. Thanks to Jordan Alva, Sports Information Director, for visiting with us. Also, thanks to the head coach of the Tigers, Perry Thomas. We'll see you next week on The Perry Thomas Show.
Endurance.
Ambitious.
Dedicated.
Fellowship.
Purpose. Find yours at Campbellsville University.